You need to watch this video so that you are warned against people like this.
The story of Michael Skolnick lives in infamy as the surgery that never should have happened. Michael Skolnick was a 22-year-old nursing student who, for the most part, never suffered from any medical conditions and lived a relatively healthy lifestyle. The CT scan results showed a small mass in Michael's brain which appeared to be consistent with a colloid cyst. It didn't appear to be causing any ventricular obstruction, and doctors assured Michael and his family that it was likely nothing to worry about as these cysts were usually benign. Doctors suspected Michael was actually suffering from a seizure disorder and ordered an MRI to get a more in-depth view. The MRI confirmed the presence of a small 4.2 mm cyst. The family was sent back home, and Michael's mother, Patty, immediately began researching the condition and seeking second opinions. She mailed the family's primary care physician, and while waiting for a response, stumbled upon the details of a neurosurgeon named Dr. M. Dr. M told Patty that Michael needed to be admitted to the ICU as soon as possible. Patty jumped into action and took her son to the Valley View Hospital, where another CT scan was conducted. As the family waited in Michael's room to see the results, Dr. M strode in. According to Dr. M, the results proved that the cyst was enlarged and there was an immense amount of fluid on the brain, causing a major obstruction. Dr. M informed them that to treat this, a ventricular drain would need to be inserted into Michael's head to drain the fluid and relieve the pressure. He claimed that Michael would be fully recovered within 6 days, and this was an easy procedure that he had done hundreds of times before. To Michael's family, it sounded as if the procedure was essential to save Michael's life. After a unanimous decision was made, Dr. M fetched the consent form which Michael signed. Patty and Michael's father, David, were then instructed to leave the room so Michael could be prepped for the procedure. But instead of him being taken to an operating theater, Dr. M performed the procedure bedside with a hand drill in Michael's room. Immediately, Patty and David sensed something was wrong. Staff began flooding in and out of Michael's room, and the scene was chaotic. Patty and David asked a nearby nurse if everything was all right, to which she responded that the doctor had given Michael too much sedation and they had to assist him with his breathing. This would only be the start of the trouble. After the procedure, Dr. M informed Patty and David that there was too much fluid on the brain and that he would need to operate within 48 hours or Michael would die. When Patty and David went home to deliberate, they received a fax from the family's primary care physician who stated that the cyst was benign and unlikely to grow or cause complications, echoing exactly what the ER doctors had told them. The next day, on September 20th, Patty showed Dr. M the letter. However, he was unimpressed and exclaimed that he was a neurosurgeon who knew better than a primary care physician. By this stage, Michael was almost incoherent. It was while he was in this medicated state that Dr. M would enter his room with a consent form which Michael signed. His parents were not with him at the time and had not yet discussed the option of brain surgery. However, Dr. M convinced him it was necessary to save his life. The next day at 3 p.m., Michael was taken to the theater, and David and Patty were perplexed as to how Michael had even managed to sign the consent form. Despite their reservations, the surgery went ahead, and what was supposed to be a 3-hour procedure took 6.5 hours. Finally, at 9:30 p.m., Dr. M walked into the waiting room and dramatically fell onto one knee before Michael's parents. He then exclaimed that this was the worst year of his life. Perplexed, Patty asked how the surgery went, to which he replied that he did not find the cyst intact and had possibly punctured it. Michael's brain was, in fact, heavily manipulated during the surgery, and significant brain trauma had occurred. Dr. M informed Patty and David that not only was Michael struggling to wake up, but his recovery would take much longer. When Patty and David were finally allowed to see their son, they were horrified by how swollen his head and eyes were. Deep down, they knew something was wrong. After Michael's surgery, Dr. M was nowhere to be found, and a locum doctor was sent to oversee Michael. The locum doctor informed Michael's parents that the drain needed to be removed. When the bandages were taken off, Patty and David realized the extent of the damage. Michael had been mutilated. Part of the front of his skull had been removed and peeled back in a craniotomy. What was meant to be a week's stay turned into several months in the ICU. Complication after complication arose, ranging from intracerebral hemorrhaging, abscesses, sepsis, yeast infections, respiratory arrest, and a pulmonary embolism. After 5 months, Michael was transferred to a rehabilitation hospital where the shocking truth would be revealed. An assessment revealed that Dr. M had in fact performed a partial frontal lobotomy and removed part of the hypothalamus. Over the next few months, Michael's symptoms would worsen as he would lose his sight, become semi-paralyzed, lose his short-term memory, and suffer from excruciating neuropathic pain as well as hallucinations and psychosis. After 22 months, Michael was then released into his parents' care, but shortly after, he went into multiple organ failure, losing the ability to walk, talk, and eat. Patty and David had to transform their home into an ICU and care for their once vivacious son, purchasing thousands of dollars worth of medical equipment. Michael would eventually require a tracheostomy, a gastrostomy, and a pubic catheter. He would also need to take 27 different medications every single day. His cognitive ability eventually decreased to that of an 8-year-old, and he suffered from thoughts of self-harm, only able to raise his right hand to gesture. One day, Michael suffered a grand mal seizure and had to be admitted to hospital. The seizure had initially gone unnoticed as his night sitter had fallen asleep, only realizing the situation when Michael aspirated. In hospital, Michael was placed on life support where his condition would eventually worsen until Patty and David had to make a heartbreaking decision to pull the plug. Before they did, they spoke to Michael, who was conscious but could not speak. They devised a system of communication whereby he would squeeze their hands twice if he wished to be taken off of life support. Michael did squeeze twice, and his parents accepted his decision. On June 4, 2004, he passed away at the age of 25. After Michael's death, Patty and David found out that the procedure Michael went through wasn't even the first line of recommended treatment for his condition. First-line treatment would have been endoscopic surgery, which is minimally invasive. Dr. M hadn't even mentioned this option. Patty and David would also learn that Dr. M had exaggerated his experience in the field and had only performed a drain placement once before. In addition to this, they discovered that Dr. M had multiple suits of malpractice against him in different states. Yet none of this information was disclosed or available before the surgery. They also filed a malpractice lawsuit against Dr. M, which was later settled out of court. However, the board examiner could technically find no wrongdoing in the case, so no sanctions were placed against Dr. M. Through the couple's advocacy group efforts, the Colorado legislature passed the Michael Skolnick Medical Transparency Act, which stated that important information, including cases of malpractice, is on public record for healthcare providers in the state. The tragic case of Michael Skolnick highlights the importance of informed consent and the blind trust we as patients often place in those who appear to be figures of authority, as well as the power dynamics that can distort our decisions.
Extremely annoying. I am not related to these people. I don't know them, but just watching this video and I can feel the pain. Comment down below what you feel, what your thoughts are about this video. It's so sad.